Seconds out.
So this is Robert Waterman with Barry Hearn yet again at the darts, Barry. So another year, bigger and better as usual.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a year ago. I suppose that's because we're getting so old, but it's been a big year for boxing.
Yeah, so obviously we're at the darts, but it's now a tradition for us. This, I think, is our third year talking about the last year and the next year of what's gone in boxing. Well, what a year. So from my reckoning, and this I'm not totally sure, but I tried to do a bit of research, I think we've got 14 world champions.
14, I think it's about right, yeah, with Cal Yafai adding the super flyweight title a couple of weeks ago. It's unbelievable, isn't it, what's happened? And boxing at a time when the sport's getting bigger, you'd think it'd be harder to get world champions, so they deserve double praise.
Yeah, so when we look at the world champions that we now have, and I've just sort of done a list, we've got Joshua, you could argue we've still got Fury, we've got Tony Bellew, Nathan Cleverly, James DeGale, Billy Joe Saunders, Kell Brook, Ricky Burns, Terry Flanagan, Lee Selby, Carl Frampton, Lee Haskins, Jamie McDonald and Khalid Jafai, as you just mentioned. Most of them are with you.
Well, not with me, with Matchroom and Fast Car Eddie Hearn. I mean, he's the one that's done it, it's not the dad. I mean, these shows, like, you know, us old-time promoters, we're really yesterday in comparison to how the world's changed. It's a social media world. It's a world where the customer wants a much higher standard of entertainment than perhaps the old-time boys like me gave in the leisure centres. It's all big arena shows now, and Eddie's really, you know, he set the style for people to follow if they want to be taken seriously in this game as major promoters. I'm very proud of him, although he's my son. He's done an outstanding job, and one that I don't think I could have done. I think he risked quite a bit of his dad's money, and he's made the right decision because he's made a hugely successful business out of it, and clearly his association with Sky for a long term has been very beneficial. And I think he's allowed people to achieve some of their dreams, which in sport is really what it's all about at the end of the day.
You've said just to me just now that it's a totally different world to the world that you inhabited as a promoter. Yeah. Can you sort of pinpoint one major change?
I think the change in demographic, you know, when the small hall shows or even the bigger shows, if you look round ringside, you saw people that were either involved in the fight game or were fight fans from years and years back. Today it's reality TV stars and models and professional footballers and people, you know, have done well in life. It's a completely different financial environment, and these people want the very best, and they're prepared to pay for it. And on the back of that, everyone gets elevated in the style to which a fight is put together. There's a lot more concentration on the experience for the fight fan. There's a lot more concentration, although some fans won't agree with this. There's a lot of concentration about making sure the undercard is of sufficient quality. You'll never get it right because there's no rehearsals allowed, but you must start by trying to get it right and to give everyone value. And I think that's a big difference. And when I look back on some of the shows that I did, Frank did, Frank Maloney did, you know, there were times when some of those fights weren't really good enough and certainly weren't good enough to build the sport. And Eddie's been quite brave in investing in future stars and trying to build profiles and at the same time build the sport. And I think the fact that where he is now held as number one in the world, I would say, really, because there's no one doing the quality of shows in the number of shows he's doing, it's all beginning to work out for him, and I'm very happy and proud to see it happening.
I mean, it's interesting because when we look at the shows, as you say, there's still the debate. Americans are still saying, yeah, if you want to be a real star, you've got to come here to Vegas. Is that really the case anymore?
No, not in the slightest. I don't know too many Americans are saying it because most of them are ringing up Eddie and saying, can I fight in the UK? There is no money in America unless, you know, you're one of those breakthrough fighters. People look at Mayweather, Pacquiao and say, that was like 20 years in the making, you know. So what's it been followed up with? You know, when you look at the heavyweight division, you see what Deontay Wilder's earning as compared to what Anthony Joshua's earning. No wonder Deontay Wilder wants to fight Anthony Joshua, and so does everybody else, by the way, because boxing's about making money because it's a highly dangerous sport, and these fighters have the right to earn as much money as they can possibly earn for what the entertainment value they're giving us. Anyone who watched Dylan White against Chisora the other day could never, ever regret the amount of money that a fighter gets, you know, because it is pugilistic entertainment, but it's damaging as well to people. So when we look at America, that's many years ago. You know, you're sounding as old as me. That was many years ago. We used to dream of going to America to get the big paydays. Today's market, especially in the Al Heyman era of giving shows free to broadcasters, obviously restricts perhaps the audience, but certainly restricts the power to pay massive purses, which he has done. But I see that declining now going forward. So James DeGale's gone to America. I think James beats Badou Jack and then comes back to England because he knows, because he's a sensible lad, this is where the money is. And as much as people find that distasteful, boxing's about making money. You don't go through this type of risk if you don't have that pile of gold potential at the end of the rainbow.
SecondsOut.